Science fiction loves time travel. So many stories can be told. But suppose time travel were real. Whom would I meet? What would I do? Would I try to kill Hitler as a baby? Change history and save millions of lives? Would I help my grandmother when as a child she suffered in Europe? But what about those famous paradoxes? Suppose a time traveler would kill his grandmother before she conceived his mother. No mother, no him. But then, how could he have gone back in time in the first place? Some scientists take time travel seriously, not to make machines, but to explore the nature and limits of reality. Is time travel possible? I'm Robert Lawrence Kuhn, and Closer to Truth is my journey to find out. Time travel seems impossible. So I begin in New York with the author of Physics of the Impossible, a professor at the City University of New York, Michio Kaku. He likes pushing boundaries.
Let's start with Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton believed that time was like an arrow. Once you fired it, it went in a straight direction. 1 second on the Earth was 1 second on Mars, was 1 second on Jupiter. It never reversed directions. Along comes Einstein, who says, not so fast, not so fast. Time is like a river, old man river, that meanders around stars, speeds up and slows down. The new wrinkle in all this, which is causing all the excitement and the dismay of philosophers, is that this river of time can fork into two rivers. Or perhaps the river of time can have whirlpools and time can go in on itself. In that case, time travel is something you have to take very seriously, because Einstein's equations do allow for time travel. And they're blueprints, blueprints for different kinds of time travel designs that are compatible with Einstein's theory. For example, gigantic spinning cylinders. You go around the cylinder and you come back before you left. Colliding cosmic strings. You wind around these cosmic strings and you come back before you left.
And the key element is that in Einstein's theory, it allows this under certain solutions?
That's right. Time and space are like a fabric, like rubber, like a trampoline net. However, if you stretch the trampoline net so much, it can rip, perhaps. And perhaps you can turn this trampoline net into a pretzel and allow yourself to go backwards in time. Now, of course, there's a catch. There's always a catch in these things. The energy, the gasoline necessary to do this is fabulous. Even an atomic bomb does not have enough energy to drive a time machine. For a time machine, you need the energy of an exploding star.
How about all the logical paradoxes that one would come across in time travel, going back to the past, killing your grandmother, and all of those kinds of issues?
Or meeting your teenage mother when she's a teenager and she falls in love with you. So how can you be born if your teenage mother just fell in love with you? Yeah. There are two ways to resolve these paradoxes. The first is self-consistency, that if you want to shoot your parents before you're born, there's something preventing you from pulling that trigger. Maybe there's a hidden law of physics that says you cannot create a time paradox. I don't believe that.
Yeah, that seems far out.
That's far out. I believe that the river of time forks into two rivers. If you saw Back to the Future Part 2 very carefully, Doc Brown, this Einstein figure, goes to the blackboard and draws a timeline from the 50s to the 80s. And then he draws a separate line that splits off from the main timeline. the river of time forks into two rivers.
Is this getting to the so-called many-world interpretation of quantum mechanics? Would that be?
That is the simplest way to resolve all these paradoxes.
That never seemed very simple to me.
Well, it's the simplest in the sense that you don't have to add any other assumptions other than quantum mechanics.
Sure.
So if you go backwards in time and save Abraham Lincoln from being assassinated in the Ford's Theater, you've saved somebody else's Abraham Lincoln, who's genetically equivalent to your Abraham Lincoln, but you've entered another universe. If you shoot your parents before you're born, you've shot somebody else's parents before you're born, who's genetically equivalent to your parents. So you can go backwards in time continually, monkey with your own past. However, you're monkeying with, in some sense, a parallel past.
Right.
Now, Stephen Hawking...
creating a parallel past.
Creating a whole new
universe.
That's right. And Stephen Hawking even said there's got to be a laws of physics preventing this thing from happening. Well, we've tried and tried and tried and failed. We cannot find any law of physics preventing you from going backwards in time. It seems to be consistent with the known laws of physics. The trick is you have to have this energy on the scale of a star. You'd have to be a very advanced civilization. So these tourists from the future are just not 100 years into the future. These tourists from the future would be perhaps millions of years in the future, the ability to control the output of a star. We physicists are hot rodders of physics. We push the equations until they break down. So Stephen Hawking assumed that they would break down. Well, we were shocked. They didn't break down. The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines. This is very unsettling because it means that perhaps, just perhaps, time travel is possible for advanced civilizations. Cannot be ruled out.
So the key for time travel is Einstein's theory of special relativity, which seems easy to describe, but hard to believe. I need more Einstein. So I go to Princeton to meet J. Richard Gott, professor of astrophysics, who likes to explain how time travel might work.
Richard, how can we begin to look at the physics of time travel?
Well, in his theory of special relativity in 1905, Einstein showed that time travel to the future is possible. He showed that moving clocks tick slowly. So if you want to visit the Earth in the year 3000, all you need is a fast spaceship. So you just go at 99.995% the speed of light out to a star 500 light years away, turn around and come back at the same speed. And when you get back, the Earth will be in the year 3000, 1,000 years later, but you will have only aged 10 years. So this is how you can visit the future. And indeed, our greatest time traveler so far is Sergei Krikalev, who has traveled 1/48th of a second to the future by his numerous orbital missions around the Earth.
Now, obviously, this has to be enormously faster, a very, very high fraction of the speed of light, but we accelerate particles to that speed today in our...
We have protons going this fast. Right. It's just a matter of money and engineering. NASA, take note. It's expensive, but possible in principle, we know for sure.
Okay.
Now, what about time travel to the past?
That sounds much more complicated.
That sounds more difficult. There's a poem. There was a young lady named Bright. She traveled far faster than light. She left one day in a relative way, but returned the previous night. So if you could go faster than the speed of light, from special relativity, we know that theoretically you could go back in time. However, Einstein showed that you couldn't build a rocket that would go faster than the speed of light. You could build one that would go very close to the speed of light, but not faster. But in 1915, his theory of general relativity showed that there was curved space-time. This explained gravity. And in curved space-time, you can have a shortcut where you can beat a light beam to a destination, and this opens the door to having time travel to the past. So what's occurring here is that if this is space-time, and this is time going this way, space this way, your path through time like this is your world line, your path through time. You're going toward the future always. But what can happen here is that the space-time is sufficiently twisted so that you, while going toward the future all the time, yet circle back and visit an event in your own past. And so the time traveler, circling the cosmic strings, is going toward the future, toward the future, toward the future, but yet comes back and visits an event.
And this would be
in the
caused by
past.
the curvature of space-time.
Yes.
And how far back can you go, theoretically?
Think spaghetti and SpaghettiOs. So if you're not lucky enough to find two infinite cosmic strings passing each other at the right speed, you can always take a loop of cosmic string that you find, manipulate it by flying massive spaceships around it, so you cause it to contract by a large factor, and the sides of the strings will pass each other at a speed fast enough to make a time machine, slower than the speed of light, but still fast enough to make a time machine. And then I showed that this would be sufficiently compact that the time travel region would be likely hidden inside a black hole. If you were lucky, you could do the time travel inside the black hole, but you're never getting back out to brag to your friends about it.
And never telling anybody about it.
So the laws of physics, as we understand them today, seem to allow time travel solutions. And the question we're asking ourselves is, will we discover new laws of physics in the future that'll somehow stop it? So we're probing the boundaries of the laws of physics under extreme situations, which may give us clues as to how they work.
Time travel is theoretically possible, but practically not likely. Still worth the effort? Surely. Diving deeply into the ocean of reality. Time travel is all about the flexing and twisting of space and time. It's called warping, which includes wormholes, those theoretical tunnels that connect one part of the universe to another. No one is more knowledgeable about the warping of space-time than Kip Thorne, the Feynman Professor of Theoretical Physics at Caltech. We meet in Kip's lab, a prototype gravity wave detector.
Kip, I'm interested in the use of time travel, wormholes theoretically, to probe the nature of reality.
We would like to probe the laws of physics through a combination of experiment and theory. But there are areas where the experiment is so challenging we can't do it with the human technology in this century. And wormholes and some aspects of the nature of space are in that domain, predictions about them. And so thought experiments, Einstein taught us, are a powerful tool for probing the nature of physics. You just ask, could, in principle, our infinitely advanced civilization, could such a civilization build a wormhole to travel from here to another galaxy? And when you ask that kind of a question, you then go into the laws of physics and you probe it mathematically, geometrically in the laws of physics, and it teaches you a lot about the nature of space and time.
How might that work conceptually from the laws of physics?
The warping of space in a wormhole is so intense. It's like the warping of space in a stretched rubber membrane. It wants to shrink, and the wormhole wants to shrink and pinch off, so when you try to travel through, you die. And so can they be held open? How do you hold them open? And so we then, in this way, discovered intimate relationship between the nature of energy and tensions on one hand, and the nature of warping of space on another hand.
Now, how does that relate to time and the possibility of time travel in either direction, to the future or to the past?
If you have wormholes, then if you move the mouth of one wormhole down near the surface of a black hole, time flows very slowly there compared to the rate of flow of time back here on Earth. And so the two mouths get out of sync. The mouth of the wormhole sits down near the surface of the black hole, and it sits there with only a few hours passing, while up here on Earth, 1 billion years pass. And so we on Earth can then go down through the wormhole and can come out near the surface of the black hole 1 billion years earlier. We can then come out and go back up into the external universe 1 billion years earlier than we went down. So if you have wormholes, there's a natural way to make a time machine. So this was wonderful when my students and I discovered this. I was very excited. But then probing more deeply and talking with other colleagues, I was forced to realize that there's a universal mechanism that when you're trying to turn a wormhole into a time machine in this way, a universal mechanism that always creates a violent explosion that very likely destroys the wormhole right at the moment when it begins to make time travel possible. And so time machines, if you try to create them, appear to self-destruct. We simply do not have the understanding of the laws of physics to be able to speculate about that quantitatively yet. We have to have a much deeper understanding of quantum gravity to get the answer, whether that's possible.
Warping, wormholes, exotic stuff. Time travel involves the most mysterious matter in the universe.